Welcome! Today we're going to do a tutorial on how to set up a timer and create an enemy that uses this timer in a unique way. Let's have a look. I have my pre-made game here, and in this game I have an enemy which is called Sandworm. So let's take a look at Sandworm. Now, I have a few sprites for this. The first one being just a blank empty surface. And then the next one, edit this, the sandworm out of the ground, opening and closing its jaws. And then we have a sandworm springing animation and a sandworm retracting animation. Now I'll open up the game and show you the sandworm in action. The important thing to take away from this is that timers can be used in a bunch of different ways. And let's get to the level. So here we have it. I have speckles which indicate that a sandworm is present underneath the ground and the sandworm has jumped out. Then a certain period of time passes and the sandworm jumps out again. This sandworm is dangerous while it's out of the ground, but I can walk on it while it's back in the ground. Let's take a look at the inner workings of this object. So in my create event, I have set alarm 0 to 120. Now, that is not 120 seconds, it is 120 steps. If you want to know what the conversion between steps and seconds, go to your room and look at this speed variable. So 30 steps occur per second. That's useful to know, because if we go back to our alarm, we know that 120 steps actually divide by 30 equals 4 seconds. So we know this alarm is going to be triggered after 4 seconds have passed. And I have another variable called danger var, and this variable gets set to 0. This is saying that the enemy is not dangerous. Now let's take a look at the alarm. So the alarm is an alarm event, and when it counts to the value that we set here, so 120, which is 4 seconds, so 4 seconds passes, this alarm gets called, and then this code executes. Now notice I have another set alarm, and in this alarm I can reset the alarm back to counting back to 44 seconds. Now, the reason I want to do this is I don't want this alarm to occur once. I want it to keep periodically occurring. So if we take a look at this, the alarm gets called, sets itself to 4 seconds, or sets itself to wait for 4 seconds. 4 seconds goes past, this alarm gets called, sets itself to 4 seconds. 4 seconds goes past, the alarm gets called, sets itself to 4 seconds. So we have this loop occurring every 4 seconds. Now I have another piece of code here. This is the danger var toggle. So if we look at this, I am saying danger var equals 0, then danger var equals 1, danger var, else, so that means danger var equals 1. Then we get into this statement here, danger var equals 0. This is basically just toggling the danger variable to 1 and 0 every 4 seconds. And notice I am also toggling the sprite index. So this is the sprite of the object. So if danger 0, so the worm wasn't dangerous, but it has swapped to being dangerous, we need to make the worm spring out of the ground. So I set this sprite index to the animation of the worm springing, and if we go down here, I also have for when the worm goes from being dangerous to dormant, then we set the sprite index to the sandworm retracting back into the ground. Okay, now we'll look at the step event. Now, one thing to note is never put a set alarm inside a step event. this is going to set the alarm every step, and it will never actually count up to the desired value that you've put in. So one thing to take away is always set it in the create event or the alarm event. Unless you have some very specific code, use the create or alarm to create this periodic cycle. Now let's take a look at the step. So in here I am saying image index. So the image index is the sprite animation, and it's the 12th one. We have a look. Oh, that's not the right sprite. Let's have a look at springing. So in here we have 12. We actually have 13, so I should set that to 13. We have 13 images, and we're saying when you get to the 12th image, swap over. So this, if we set an object to this sprite, this is just going to keep popping out of the ground. It's not actually going to stop at the top. So my if statement is saying if we get it to here where the worm has nearly sprung fully out of the ground, then set the sprite to a new one where the worm is actually fully out of the ground. And we can take another look at that code. Go back into step. So we look at this code, image index equals 12 and the danger variable. So we're looking at if the sprite is springing out of the ground or going back in. So danger var equals 0 means the worm's actually retracting back into the ground. And therefore, we want to set the sandworm to the ground sprite. In this one here, we're saying that the danger variable equals 1, and therefore it is springing up out of the ground. And when it gets to the 12th animation of the springing movement, then we want to set it to the sprung sprite. Okay, so this is that sprite, that last sprite I showed you, where it is actually popped out of the ground. And then lastly, I have my collision event. So if the player collides with his enemy and the danger variable equals to 1, then the player dies. We have a few things reset. We have the lives reset. We have my death screen, or the room that shows that you have died and you have to wait a certain period of time before you respawn. So that occurs here as well. That is only occurring when this is dangerous. So if we go back, we're imagining this is the toggle. So we're going from 0 to 1 every 4 seconds. This sandworm becomes dangerous for 4 seconds, then it becomes dormant for 4 seconds, dangerous for 4 seconds, and that just keeps on repeating. And that's how we get this animation occurring. So that's some basics on creating an interesting enemy for a 2D platformer.